Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ben Stone, Director of Arts and Culture with Smart Growth America. Thank you all for joining us today. If you've joined us in the past for arts and culture webinars, you know we often give a minute or two of leeway to let people join in. We've given you just about 2 minutes now, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a really jam-packed agenda today with a bunch of different presenters you can see on the screen now. So we're going to move rather quickly and jump right into our presentation for the day. And also, if you joined us in the past, you know we always try our best to leave at least a few minutes at the end for Q&A, and often we are not able to actually pull that off. We're going to do our best to try to wrap up with enough time to do that today, so you can ask all these great folks you see here some questions about their work. So before I jump in, I represent Smart Growth America. We're a national nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. Many of you might know us through some of these other organizations you see on the screen here, especially Transportation for America, but we work through a number of different separately branded organizations, which are all under the umbrella of Smart Growth America, all working holistically on issues of transportation, land use, and of course, smart growth all across the United States. And our arts and culture team, which has been around for about 5.5 years now, works in a few different ways. We often fund projects, as we have with the work you're going to hear about today, to create exemplary case studies and share that information just like we're doing right now with other folks around the United States. We track the work that artists are doing at the intersection of transportation, planning, development, and the arts, of course, to communicate the benefit of working with artists on these kinds of projects. And then when we used to gather in rooms in person, we would do things like you see on the screen there, but now we do things virtually, and we train people to communicate and work together across different kinds of disciplines to collaborate more effectively. And on our last webinar, which was just a few months ago, we unveiled our new resource called transportation.art, very easy to find, got a great URL for that. And on the screen here, you can see what that looks like. The scenic route is something that's existed for also about 5 years now, but we relaunched this and included a number of different resources about creative placemaking, arts and culture, and the transportation sector. So I encourage you to go to transportation.art to learn more about the project we're discussing today, as well as all of the projects we've been working on for a number of years now. So coming back to why we're here today with the great group of folks you see with us, about more than a year ago at this point, shortly after the COVID-19 pandemic began, we launched the Arts and Transportation Rapid Response with the 5 different artists you see there with the blue circles around them, and 2 in the Bay Area, 1 in Las Vegas, 1 in rural Minnesota, and 1 in Detroit. And we did this project on the hypothesis that much of the challenges facing the transportation sector were really of a spatial nature, they were of a communications nature, and a lot of the issues facing departments of transportation and transit agencies really could be solved by artists and performers and creative thinkers, and we think we've been proven pretty correct. If you listen to our first webinar from the first round, hopefully you thought that as well, and you'll hear 3 more examples about how that is functioning now and how artists are contributing to these challenges. I'm really excited that we have 3 different presentations that are all really different and focus on different aspects of the transportation field. You'll hear about one that's really about the intersection between transportation and housing, talking about the unhoused community that is finding shelter within a transportation system. You'll hear about a transportation system that doesn't even exist yet, a challenge resulting in trying to launch and plan for a new system during a pandemic. And then you'll also hear about the complexities of dealing with social distancing in a very dense downtown area. We have very different contexts, a downtown area, a project that takes place on the system itself, and then one that takes place in a rural area. So lots to hear about today. The last thing I just want to mention is that I want to thank our partners with Forecast. You're about to hear from them in just a moment when I'm done. They've been helping us with the first and second round of this work. I want to thank our main funder, the Kresge Foundation, as well as the National Endowment for the Arts, who partially funded the first round of this work. And finally, I wanted to thank 3M, who's responsible for supporting the work you'll see today and many of the materials involved in the projects you'll see in just a moment. Right there are all the different agencies we've worked with. We worked with a number of nonprofits and DOTs in the first round and worked pretty exclusively with transit agencies in this second round of work. Really quickly, I want to run you through just what the first round of work looked like if you weren't able to join us for that first webinar. We worked in Las Vegas, again, focused on social distancing, you see here. the artist Ashley Dowdy, who created signage and information about social distancing on Las Vegas's transportation system. Similarly, we had an artist focus on mask wearing on the Bay Area Rapid Transit on BART system. That's artist Tasha Stimage there doing some in-person artistic outreach. We also focused on another project related to safe routes to school, another planning project, and trying to figure out how to get people to engage with their transit agencies and transportation agencies in the middle of the pandemic. You can see some of the work happen in rural Minnesota there. And then also worked on wayfinding in Detroit, helping people use a transit system to get to the resources they needed to help them during the pandemic. It's Ndubisi Okoye, the artist we worked with in Detroit. And finally, in Oakland, we worked on the very popular concept of slow streets, trying to replace the construction barricades used for these projects with something more useful to the communities where these projects were taking place. In this case, a small community garden on wheels. You can see the initial watering that took place last spring there. So with that, I'm going to hand things over first to Franco and Catherine, the two main folks working on the MARTA project. When they're done, you will then hear from Janelle and Maura, representing the Port Authority of Allegheny County. And then finally, you'll hear from Shelley and Jen talking about the great work they've done in rural Massachusetts with the Quabog Valley CDC. Before I do that, I'm going to hand things over to Mark to talk about the work that Forecast has done on this project, the first round and the second round. So with that, Mark, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Ben. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Salinas. I'm the Senior Project Manager at Forecast Public Art. I had the honor of working on those past 5 projects and these next 3 projects that you'll be seeing today. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. Forecast Public Art was created in 1978 by artists and is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Minnesota. Our mission is to activate, inspire, and advocate for public art that advances justice and health and human dignity. And everything we do looking through this lens. We have 3 main components of what we do. We support, fund, and train artists who work in the public. We have a long-standing grant support system of approximately 30 years for Minnesota-based public artists and our admins for projects and research and workforce development. To date, we have administered approximately $3.1 million of grant funding. We also partner and consult on public art and creative place honoring projects. We work with private and public entities needing guidance to commission public art and create equitable selection processes. So we develop RFQs, public art master plans, cultural mapping, multi-year strategies, partnering artists with entities to create projects in the public realm, just as what we're going to see today. And we're focused on expanding those opportunities for BIPOC artists. Lastly, we build local capacity, gather stories, and share research. We do this through sharing our case studies on our digital publication called Forward, where we juxtapose public art and public health, or public art and transportation, or public art and community safety. And the goal of Forward is to talk about how artists and creatives are not standalone entities, but are rather cross-pollinators, helping affect the outcomes and challenges in other sectors and departments within our communities. We hold sessions and workshops and bring thought leaders to discuss today's issues. We work locally as well as nationally, turning ideas into action. Extremely grateful to be partners with Smart Growth America on this project. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. There's my email address.
Thanks so much, Mark. With that, we'll hand things right over to Franco and Catherine to talk about the work they did with MARTA. Take it away.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Catherine Dorga. I lead MARTA's public art program called Artbound. And I want to thank Ben and Ebony for having us here today and setting this up. This is really cool. When we learned about the Smart Growth America project, we saw that there was this opportunity to bring a local artist together with an organization that was already on the ground. And we thought it was just a natural fit for MARTA Hope. MARTA Hope is an initiative that we started at MARTA. MARTA is Atlanta's public transit system. We started it last August in 2020 in order to kind of address the needs of people who are taking shelter on our trains and in our stations. And the idea is to pair them with resources that they need as defined by them. And so meeting them where they are with the type of help that they request on their terms. MARTA Hope is made up of peace officers from MARTA. So these are officers who don't carry weapons, they carry radios, and homeless outreach workers from Hope Atlanta, which is a local organization. So the vision for this project in pairing an artist with MARTA Hope was to have an artist come and shadow the workers for Hope and see what they do, and to design a project around that experience. Well, we really wanted to rely on, the artists to kind of design and see it from their perspective and to see what they could bring to it. And so this was also a little bit of a dry run for us for an artist residency to find out what that would be like, what it would be like to kind of hand the reins over to an artist and let them kind of tell us what the project will look like. So we were absolutely delighted to learn that there was a local artist in Atlanta who was already doing incredible work, but also his day job is as a social worker on a street team doing outreach with homeless individuals in Atlanta. And so with that, I will hand it over to Franco Berrano to tell you guys all about the project that he designed for us.
Hi everyone, my name is Franco. I am a social worker and artist here in the city. I specialize in portraiture. For the past 4 or 5 years, I have been creating large-scale portraits of my clients right before housing them. So I thought that this would be a natural fit for the work that I do. In creating this project, we really relied in a heavy engagement process. We thought that because we're working with an extremely marginalized population, and first of all, people, then we really needed this to be a person-centered approach. Not only that, but we wanted to be heavily relied on ethics. So during the engagement process, we shadowed the MARTA Hope outreach team, identifying clients that were already working with the MARTA Hope and kind of just getting their feedback and their experience. I, as a social worker, also conducted individual outreach on my own throughout the MARTA system, identifying clients who were perhaps not connected to services. So the goal was for everyone who partook in this project to be already connected to services. And during that process, I wanted to capture their experiences and their words, some positive messages that they would like to share, capture images or their images the way that they want to be portrayed, and also identify resources that they think will be helpful. These are some of the individuals that we encountered during our outreach. All of these individuals are part of this project while simultaneously also partaking in social services. Some of the goals and some of the planning that happened during the project is, first of all, scouting the location. We really wanted to use 5 Points Station, which is the intersection of the railways in MARTA and also the heart of Atlanta, and also the epicenter of homelessness here in the city. And it's also home to the MARTA Hope team. So we thought that that was a natural fit for the program. We wanted to highlight individuals through portraiture. We wanted to create some sort of interactive art gallery experience that was engaging with individuals. Some of the goals that we also wanted to address is we wanted to increase awareness of MARTA Hope. We wanted to create artwork that was directed and centered around people experiencing homelessness through their images, displaying resources and positive messages. We also wanted to have a very strong activist message in this project. We We also wanted to invoke a feeling of compassion and understanding within the general population to individuals that perhaps were not aware or familiar with homelessness. So even though the goal was geared towards individuals experiencing homelessness, we also were aware that the general population will be watching these portraits. This is just an example of the production process. We wanted to create 10 large-scale pencil portraits to be displayed throughout the MARTA stations. During the process, we had to photograph the work. We had to hire a third-party print shop to install and print the portraits. And there was also a heavy graphic design aspect during the production process. Halfway through the project, we realized that we were running into a diversity issue, not just of demographics, but also a diversity of experiences. When we started the project, we wanted to highlight individuals who were homeless, who were working with social services, but we also realized that homelessness really stays with the client even after getting housing. So we made it a goal to include people not just sleeping outside, but perhaps people who had just become homeless, people who had just gotten housing and were perhaps in the process of rebuilding their lives. And we also wanted to include people whose homelessness is just a memory, and they really wear it as a badge of resilience and honor. These are just some pictures of the installation process that happened at the MARTA station. We had a photographer and we also had a videographer involved in the process as well. And these are the final products. So we have Miss Queen over here, Miss Sophia, Miss Jess. We have Fernando. We also gave the clients the option to remain anonymous. So a lot of these individuals do not want their name shared. And this is the final product. This is the final design. We really wanted to incorporate resources that really addresses the multifaceted that causes homelessness. We have resources if individuals want to have a housing assessment and they're looking for housing. We also wanted to incorporate a resource for queer youth. We also have mental health resources if you wanted, if you were having a crisis in public. We also have the phone numbers and email to the MARTA Hope team. And here at the corner, we have a QR code linking to the MARTA Hope website with the hopes that if you're walking by, then you just snap a picture and can read it later. The event culminated in a event that happened at the MARTA station. We brought agencies, we brought some of the clients who partook in the portraiture. We brought agencies who are doing similar work to commemorate and celebrate these clients and also the work that the outreach team is doing. So during the reveal, we really got a chance to observe the way that people interacted with the work. And we found some things that we perhaps didn't expect, right? So a lot of people recognize the people in the subjects as individuals in their own community. They will oftentimes say like, oh, I know that guy, or oh, I go to church with that guy, or yeah, this guy and I used to be homeless back in the day. And they really encourage individuals to share resources with each other. We also saw a lot of individuals who we perhaps wouldn't identify as homeless when doing outreach, but turns out that they were homeless. And so I believe the posters give people a chance to, who might not want to disclose that they're homeless, a chance to get resources themselves. And we also saw a lot of individuals taking photos of the work and sharing the resources who were not homeless themselves in order to share with other individuals.
And Franco, I'll jump in here and say one thing too, that from the side of MARTA, from MARTA Hope side, we found that the artwork itself was such a great way for people to understand that MARTA Hope was doing work in this area too. It was kind of a fringe benefit that we didn't expect. And so even our videographer was at one point, we hired a videographer to, to document the process. And he was at one point reticent to work with us because he felt like maybe it was, what was MARTA really doing for the homeless? Was it just all kind of for show? And so it was being able to explain that to him, what we were actually working on with MARTA Hope, what the initiative was, and sharing it in this way was a really great way for us as an organization to be able to talk about MARTA Hope as well. So it really, it was a project that I think on a lot of levels did a lot of good.
These are some of the individuals who partook in the portraits. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Hopefully we have time for some Q&A at the end. But with that, we're going to hand things off to our team in Pittsburgh. We're going to make this a south to north experience. So Chanel and Maura, please take it away.
All right, thank you so much. My name is Maura Egler. I am the Transit-Oriented Communities Project Manager at the Port Authority of Allegheny County. We serve the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania region. My job is related to planning work along our busway and rail stations, which encompasses kind of a blossoming program we have in public art. So this project was really designed to help address a COVID-related challenge. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Port Authority side first before I hand it off to Janelle to talk about her process.
I just want to make sure you are seeing my screen.
Yeah.
Great.
This is the first slide. Great, thank you. So the Port Authority, we did apply for this grant earlier this year. Our ridership, kind of at the height of the pandemic, was at 70% less than it usually normally is. So that's significantly less. So while our ridership was down, there were still some bus stops downtown that were experiencing crowding issues. And so what we wanted to do was try to find a way to creatively address some COVID-related social distancing messaging, but do it in kind of a fun, whimsical way that didn't seem overly punitive. And that also was creative, that maybe an artist could help us think through how to creatively use space and how to show people how to creatively use space while making it fun to wait for the bus as well. So we were very, very excited to select Janelle for this project. She has a lot of prior experience actually with COVID-related messaging in our downtown area, as well as street murals on asphalt and other materials. She's local to the Pittsburgh community. And so we just thought she was an absolutely perfect pick for this, and we were so excited to work with her. We really wanted to reach out to an artist to help us, like I said, creatively kind of do this messaging in a way we maybe weren't thinking about before, but also Janelle was able to do some community outreach in a very candid way that perhaps our agency wouldn't have been able to do without her. And she'll talk about that in a little bit. As far as the process itself for the project went on the Port Authority side of things, we did, in order to narrow it down to one location, take a look at our ridership data to see kind of what the average weekly ons and offs were. And we narrowed it down to one location, which is called our Super Stop at Smithfield and 6th Avenue in downtown Pittsburgh. It's our busiest stop, has by far the most people, most routes. So we decided that we would do the messaging at this location. Probably the heaviest lift here was figuring out the permitting logistics for this project. We did have to close down a portion of Smithfield Street right adjacent to our stop in order to accomplish this project so that Janelle could install the mural safely. So thanks to our road operations and special services team, as well as a number of other internal folks, we were able to accomplish a 4-day closure of our busiest stop and divert many, bus routes around the block so that we could have Janelle safely install this. So that was probably the biggest hurdle here, but it all came out in the wash and ended up being well worth it. Also want to give a shout out to our community partner on this project, which is the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership. They did a really important job of doing outreach to the local business owners and property owners around the bus stop area to make sure that they were aware of the project. They assembled a package of information for them about our grant, about Janelle, just so that they were aware of what was going on and there weren't any major logistical problems for them while the buses were being rerouted. And that was really great, just a huge help. And something I really want to thank the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership for. And then basically, after we had all of our permits in place and we acquired our own barricades, we blocked off the street really early on a Sunday morning, closed it down for 4 days. Janelle did her thing, and then we removed the barricades actually I think about a day early, which was great. And so that was kind of our process as an agency. We also did some media outreach, which got a lot of positive press for our agency, which is always much welcomed. So now I'm going to turn it over to Janelle to talk about the fun, creative side of things.
Thanks, Maura. Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle Young. I go by JY Originals as my artist name. And I applied for this commission because I was very interested in doing COVID-related work. As Maura said, I had previously done some other work downtown that was similar in messaging. I was very interested in giving people something that felt a little more uplifting, considering that we had been feeling very disconnected from each other, and the COVID messaging that we were used to seeing at that time was indeed very punitive. It wasn't fun enough for me. It didn't have enough color for me. So it was something that I was very interested in, and just figuring out how can we interact with people, how can we have a conversation with people who are downtown, who are starting to commute again, or perhaps are on the front lines, and what does that look like through art. So I did hold some internal discussions, not just with the folks we have here today, but also the community outreach with an advocacy organization, Pittsburgh for Public Transit. And so their organization consists of riders and also union folks who work as drivers of buses and things like that. And I actually worked through a network called Equitable and Just Greater Pittsburgh. In order to get in contact with them, I was able to join one of their meetings to just again, speak more candidly with the folks there and ask them about their experience commuting during COVID. So I just really wanted to know what was going on before COVID kind of interrupted their commutes, and how they at the time were experiencing their commutes, and what could potentially be better in the sense of feeling safer, and any visuals that could go along with that. And so I'm going to share a little bit about how I did that. I mostly worked through a survey that I created, very open-ended questions, so that people could really be honest and transparent with me about a few different things. So after I, pushed the survey out to the folks on the call, I was able to kind of analyze that data, kind of make some themes out of it, boil it down into a few key points, and then also think about the previous artwork that I had created that again was more colorful and whimsical, and how I could tie those things together to make something that felt cohesive for downtown Pittsburgh. Kind of moving forward, I made the design, got some feedback. I also created a video that we shared as we were shutting the bus stop down. So we had a QR code that people could scan just to see, why is the bus stop shut down? Because that can easily be, one of our biggest issues, considering it's the most used bus stop downtown. So just saying, hi, I'm an artist. I am going to be doing some work here. Please be patient with us, and join us back next week to follow your regular commute and see what we have planned for you. So that went very well. Then we also were given some products from 3M, which was really awesome. So I wanted to test those out downtown, make sure that since I was doing a ground mural, that would be something sustainable. And then we were able to get to work. I had a couple of volunteers on my team, so we were able to get done in about 3.5 days, and then also just sharing the work on social. So I want to share some of the survey results from the Port Authority writers. So one of the main questions I wanted to ask people was around social distancing or physical distancing. There was kind of a shift between, how you feel outside at the bus stop versus how you feel on the actual bus. So I wanted to make sure that I covered that properly. So I asked folks, do you actually physically distance, or do you not? And can you tell us why? Again, very transparent answers. I want to be safe. I want to make others feel safe, or not always, because I had the same seat for 15 years and I need to get that seat. Also asking people, what do you think is keeping other folks from following the guidelines? And mostly what came up was a lack of respect and inconsistent health messaging, which you will see I used in my work. Then, of course, what would you like to see to make your experience better? I'll just pick a couple of these. So, the bright colors, which is a no-brainer for me, and also images that are complex so that you have lots to look at, potentially to help the wait go by faster. Music, interactions, small discoveries were some others that I thought were really great. So here's just a quick look at the design, and then I'll show you some final photos as well. But essentially, I wanted the theme to be respect the space, because what we are talking about is the fact that the rules and the messaging around COVID-19 continue to change and shift based on, the new information that the CDC has. There's going to be different opinions on wearing masks, how far apart we should be, being vaccinated or not, right? But the one thing that should stay the same is the respect that we have for each other and our neighbors. So I wanted to make that really clear, and then also just playing up a galaxy theme, because it's way more fun to read into it that way. And I was also able to make this interactive with kind of the the 3M materials that were used for a lot of the planets, using the moon boot stencils that you'll see in a moment that kind of were suggestive on like people standing in different places, and then also with QR codes. There are 3 total, and they led to different things. So aside from the work in progress video that was on kind of the signage, there were also the 3 that were repeated throughout the almost 100 feet of the sidewalk. So there's one that goes to a meditation music playlist that's free for people to scan and listen to while they wait for the bus and during the commute. Then there's also the YouTube video explaining the project itself, which I'm going to show you in a second, and then also the Instagram so they could learn more about me and my artwork. There were also some signs put inside of the busways, and so this is a screenshot of someone scanning that. So here's just some in progress photos, placing things, me and my Ola Mills picture. And so we had a video by Ray Carrington. It's just a quick minute, so I'm going to go ahead and share this. And you're gonna love me, you're gonna wanna have me and squeeze me. Hi, my name is Janelle Young, and I'm standing in front of my latest mural on Smithfield Street. This is at the bump out on Smithfield and 6th Avenue. Respect the space. This artwork, the mural on the ground that you see, was commissioned by Port Authority and Smart Growth America. The concept behind this is respect the space concerning COVID restrictions and rules. So even though the rules keep changing around COVID, wearing a mask, social distancing, really our respect for each other should continue to stay the same. Hope you enjoy the work, and you'll get a new experience every time you come if you scan the QR codes that are on the ground. And now you're gonna love me, you're gonna wanna have me. Okay, and here is the final product from up above. It's very difficult to get the whole 100 feet into one picture, but as you can see, there's like the stencil letters and then a lot of hand painted objects throughout just to play up on the galaxy theme. And then also one thing I wanted to mention is that we did do respect in the top 3 languages that we had researched together. So we did English, Spanish, and Arabic just to, you know, really just make it a little bit more inclusive for our downtown folks. All right, thank you.
Thank you both, Maura and Janelle. So glad the video was able to work. If anyone wants to watch the video again, we'll have it on our website soon, so stay tuned for that. We have just one presentation left. We're exactly on schedule. Thank you to all the presenters for staying so close to our planned schedule. So I'm going to now move things up to Central Massachusetts. We have Jen and Shelley.
Jen and Shelley, yes, hi. Hi, Jen.
Hello. Hi, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Jen Healy. I am the Rural Transit Initiative Coordinator at the Quabog Valley Community Development Corporation. And on this project, we worked with Rochelle Shicoff, a local artist from our area. And Shelley, I'm just going to do a brief intro about the project, and then I'll turn it over to you. But for those who don't know, the Quabog Valley is in west central Massachusetts. It is a rural area. Our population is on the older side, and a lot of folks have low incomes. And that means that if you don't have a reliable personal vehicle, it can be hard to move about the region and access community resources. Especially in our area, we don't fall within the service areas of any of the regional transit agencies. So unless you have a car, you really getting to healthcare, the grocery store, employment can be a real challenge. And so because of that need, since 2017, the Quabog Valley CDC has run a service called the Quabog Connector, which is a curb-to-curb transportation service for people who don't have access to reliable transportation or don't have family members that can drive them somewhere when they need to get to an appointment or something like that. And that service has been really, really popular and has expanded over the past few years. And so as we moved into 2020, the CDC was getting ready to pilot an additional transportation service that would work more like a public bus and run along one of the major routes in our region with predefined stops and a regular schedule for folks that had same-day transportation needs that could be a little more flexible for people. And so launching a new transportation service, especially in an area where folks are not used to having public transportation, presents all kinds of challenges. We had to build public trust in the system, that it was safe and it was reliable, it could get them where they needed to go. And this was all before we added in the COVID-19 pandemic, which at the same time made folks even more skeptical of the, made folks even more skeptical of using public transportation for fear of their safety because of the pandemic, but also increase the need for reliable, accessible transportation for people to get to things like healthcare or get food on the table. And so as we moved into this project and applied for this grant, we were looking for a solution that would help market our new service in a friendly way, specifically for our community, but that would also be flexible so that we could continually update information about the safety protocols and the different measures we were taking to address the pandemic. And it also had to be flexible because this was a pilot and it was subject to change as we received more community feedback, about scheduling and stops and what is most important to our community members. And so we were excited to work with Shelley on this project. And Shelley, I'll turn it over to you now to talk about your approach and why you applied for this project.
Hi, welcome. I put in some visuals of past community work that I've done. The totems are at the Mount Vernon Public Library, the children's entrance, and the other image is from a mural in New York City on D'Agostino. It's about 140 feet long, and it's about the neighborhood. So I put in one detail so you could see a little humor in the mural. Jen, can you go to the next?
So the next
There's
one
another
is the, nope, so the next one is
yeah.
the posters.
Oh, okay. When I was hired for the commission, what I heard from the committee was about, as Jen said, a way to engage the community in a new experience, which can be a big challenge. I designed these posters, which are about 17 inches by 14 inches, that I thought would have enough information on it and would also be friendly and welcoming. So the one on the left talks about coming soon. So it's an introduction to the fixed route van system. And the other one, which would be put into the community a little bit, couple of weeks or maybe more than that later, indicates some of the places where people can go. So it gives them a little boost and a little idea of where they can go, to the doctor, to the bank, to activities. So it helps them out with thinking of the possibilities of this new system. The posters should be placed in schools and churches, in all kinds of public places so that people will know that something is coming soon. Okay, Jen, ready?
Yes, so as Shelley mentioned, it's 2 phases of posters, and actually the first, the coming soon posters are going to be going up starting tomorrow. Our launch of the new route has been delayed due to complications because of COVID-19 and some other things, but we are looking at launching it within the next month. So those posters are going to go up starting tomorrow, and then once we officially launch it, the second phase will also go up. And we were so excited to see such a friendly advertisement and promotion for our new service, and we hope that it will draw folks' attention and bring them into seeing what this service can do for them. And then the third piece of the project that Shelley designed were these planters that we are going to place at key stops along the route. Once we do place them there, they will be filled with soil and live plants for the sake of being able to move them to the stop. We have not yet put the plants in, but once they are there, they'll serve as a marker for some of the key stops in the towns that we plan to go through. And Shelley, I'll let you talk a bit about your design here if you'd like.
There'll be 6 key van stops, so 6 were designed, and the imagery along the borders was 3M. As was mentioned before, 3M graciously donated supplies, anything that the artist wanted. I worked very closely with Gustavo Lopez at 3M. We had 3 Zoom meetings, we designed, we talked, we drew, and then I got this fabulous box of reflective adhesives so that people will be able to see those leaves at night. They will glow in the dark, which is not really my style, but I thought that it would be a good little friendly, razzle-dazzly move for the community. And we used the bird as a kind of an iconic image for the community. Oh, I saw the birds on the posters around town. Oh, there's the bird. What does it have to say? And it was determined that all the text on the posters and on the signage would have the .org for information and would have the van route, which is from Belchertown, Mass. To Spencer, Mass. Six major towns and it's a major system. So I think that's about it, Jen, on that. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, so as Shelley was saying, one of the key pieces of this was that we wanted to be able to be flexible and change the information as it was updated, both about our COVID-19 safety precautions on the route and about the route itself, because it is a pilot, it's something new, so it is subject to change a little bit. So the posters and the planters have this URL on them, and that leads folks to our website, which we updated along with this project, so that when they come here, the first thing they see is a coming soon notice, and they can move to a tab that shows our COVID-19 precautions and what we're doing to keep them safe and to keep our drivers safe. And so we are just so excited to roll this initiative out, and so grateful to Smart Growth America and Forecast Public Art, and also to Shelley for giving us a unique and eye-catching and hopefully very engaging way to promote our new service. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you both, and thank you everybody for presenting today. Now's the chance for everyone who's listening in to ask any questions you might have. So if anyone has any, please put them in the question bar. And I'd invite all of our panelists to turn your mics back on, your videos back on. We'll see if any questions are coming in. I'll start with a question as we wait for other folks to chime in as well. It's a question I often ask folks when they're in this kind of state of just wrapping up a project like this and having worked in a way perhaps they haven't worked before. I'm curious, for the 3 artists, Janelle, Shelley, and Franco. What was most surprising about the work that you did? A few of you shared a few different things. Janelle, the story about the woman rushing to get to the seat she's always sitting in every single day. I'm curious what else you found surprising, things you didn't really anticipate discovering during the course of doing your project.
Well, for me, it was the material. We did the signage on vinyl and 3M, which is completely not my material. I'm a painter. So it was that, in that regard, I had to go with the material and what was needed for the project.
Thanks for that. Franco or Janelle?
Yep.
For me, I have been doing homeless outreach for the past 4 years, but I don't really use a lot of public transportation in the city just because Atlanta is so car heavy. I was really surprised to find out how many of the people I work with actually engage in public transportation, because I usually see them out in the streets, but I never really see them going places. And so like during the installation, during the reveal, like I bumped into so many people that I knew. And also I was very surprised to find out how connected the homeless population are with each other. Because during the reveal, I would, people would walk by and they would say, oh, I know this guy, or I know this guy. I'm like, wow, all these people are so popular. So it was really, it was fun to discover like the interconnectivity of everything.
Thanks for that.
I would say for me, the survey definitely opened my eyes to a few things, just because people did feel like it was a space they could be totally honest and candid. So not only was it kind of, them expressing their own actions, but having a look or a peek into why people felt like other people were doing specific things was very interesting to me, because it didn't seem like folks were thinking, oh, that person is just thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Everyone was kind of thinking that the next person was, not necessarily respecting their space or just wasn't following the rules. And it wasn't because, oh, I'm standing with a family member who I live with, so there's no reason really for me to wear a mask next to this person. Or, other people, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but once the guidelines kind of changed to you don't have to wear a mask outside, people got really comfortable just not wearing a mask at the bus stops, is what it seemed like. And when you are the person who is still wearing the mask outside, you kind of get those looks that are like, why are you taking this extra step? Why are you doing that? And, I think that kind of came out in the survey in a way that I think more conversations can actually be had about the misinterpretations of each other's actions.
It's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that, and reminds me to acknowledge, I should have said this at the beginning, that all of you worked in really challenging circumstances. This is, of course, a project that is designed to meet those challenging circumstances and try to mitigate them in all kinds of different ways. But as I'm sure everyone listening in is very aware, the rules have changed, and they change in different places in different kinds of ways. And we started this project at one point in the middle. We were in a very different place where it seemed like, as Janelle just mentioned, restrictions were being lifted everywhere. And now we're yet again in an even different place. So as you're working, as all of you are working on projects related to communicating the rules and trying to get people to follow, what everyone is telling them to do, none of us exactly knew what those rules were going to be day to day. So just wanted to acknowledge that and make sure everyone's aware that that was the context in which you all were, of course, working. One more question. I think we might have time for one or two more. Given that things are changing, as I just mentioned, and heading in a different direction, and I know none of you have a crystal ball, I myself don't either. No one knows exactly what will be happening in the coming weeks and months, but it does feel a little bit like we're settling in for the long haul and that COVID will be with us in one state or another for quite a while. Curious where you all think some of your work, either the artists or the different agency reps, could be going from here, either by expanding some of what you've already done together that we heard about, or is there some other new way of reaching people you're thinking about? Doesn't have to be a fully baked out project you thought about, but just kind of curious where your heads are going for what comes next or what might be needed.
I think for me, with COVID expanding, I feel like we are going to have a lot more situations of homelessness here in the city. I mean, worldwide, really. And I feel like there are going to be institutions who are going to be forced to create their own homeless outreach teams, very much like MARTA did. I would like to see outreach teams in libraries, in districts, neighborhoods. And so I feel like this is a project, and this is a theme that has a potential to grow exponentially.
I recently had a conversation with someone who is interested in transportation, specifically in the Pittsburgh area. And I think the conversation kind of went in the direction of public transit needs more art in general. I think that Port Authority has dabbled in kind of merging the two with a couple of artists that they've worked with already, including myself, but really bringing in artists in to a project or to help problem solve at earlier stages is something that I think is definitely an opportunity for the future.
I'll just add to that from the Port Authority side of things. I mean, our biggest thing right now is just trying to get our ridership numbers back. You know, we definitely have seen some increases, but we have, you know, a significant way to go, I would say, in getting back to pre-pandemic levels. So I think part of that is making the rider experience more pleasant. And I, you know, personally do work on our very new, very kind of early stages public art program, but I think that's something we definitely want to continue to try to, you know, incentivize people to come back and make it more, you know, pleasant for people to be waiting at stops, but also riding the vehicles as well.
I think if somebody finds me a wall somewhere, I'll do a mural. I think people need a friendly information. I think people are hurting because of the variants, and I say that plural. I think we need to engage with the community about the future, and that there's hope, and that you'll be back on the vans, and you'll be back on the trains, you'll be back on the buses. It will eventually be okay. So I think that would be a good thing, a big mural blast. Yeah, with community members doing the work. Yeah.
Great, thank you for sharing all those ideas. We'll check back in with all of you in the coming weeks and months and see if you all have worked on those. We're just about at time. I just want to thank everybody you see on the screen here and everyone working behind the scenes, and definitely wanted to acknowledge Ebony Benson, who is running the show behind the scenes. And like so many other things that change, Ebony joined the Smart Growth America team in the middle of this project and jumped right on board and helped shepherd everyone through this complex project and brought these projects to fruition that you saw today. I also wanted to just mention that when we did our first webinar at the end of the first round, I was able to announce that we were doing a second round, and here we have all the folks who participated in the second round. We're not announcing a third round yet. We're, like so many folks, doing some evaluations as to where we are vis-a-vis the pandemic and where things might be headed and what kind of assistance we can provide and what our best relationship with transportation agencies and COVID might be in the future. So to be totally honest, we don't know exactly what that will look like yet, but we're going to be getting our heads together with a number of folks and working on that. So stay tuned for some more information about where the arts and culture team at Smart Growth America is headed in the near future. And with that, thank you again. Thank you to our sponsors, participants, and everyone for joining. And hopefully you'll be able to find even more information about all these projects on our website in the near future. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.